Okay, third time lucky. I've been trying to do this video a few times and have been interrupted a couple of times by my darling boy. So I wanted to talk about the value of sadness in relationships and how our avoidance of it is widely spread. I see it all the time, and how it's really negatively affecting our relationships. Firstly, I think it's important to talk about how the reason we avoid sadness in relationships, it's not our fault. It's not because we're bad people or there's something innately wrong with us. You know, we are inundated with information telling us that we're supposed to be chasing eternal happiness, that's the point. And so we're taught to avoid avoid sadness and to chase happiness. And we're also told from such a young age that our feelings are irrational and that irrational is bad. And, there's a lot of information around how that's wrong that we do that to boys, but we do it to girls too. We get to a certain age where we're told, okay, come on, get over it, or let it go, or chin up. And what a lot of us don't know is that our feelings are part of the toolbox that our psyche has to cultivate homeostasis, so to come back to a place of balance and health. From external and environmental factors affect us and throw us off balance, throw us off our equilibrium. And our feelings are our psyche's natural and healthy way to process what's going on and come back to equilibrium. So being sad is healthy, so long as we're able to feel it, allow it to move through us, and then to move on. So we need to feel sadness to be healthy, and it's exactly the same thing in a relationship. A relationship with a person is simply an external reflection of the relationship we're having with ourselves. And so the same rules apply. And what I see happen all of the time, and myself included, in relationships is a situation might occur, something said or done or not said or not done, and the unconscious, we're usually unaware of it, but there's a particular feeling that starts to occur inside of us which could turn into sadness and is sadness. But before we even let it get to that place, before we even recognize it as sadness, we so often just manipulate or micromanage the situation to avoid the sadness. And there's all different ways of doing that. One is, the most popular one that I see, is getting angry. So let's say, for instance, I'll give you a real example. What happened for me? Okay, so there was a moment where I asked my husband to do something for me, or I brought it to his attention, and he fobbed it off. And I could have gotten angry with him, and in some situations I would have gotten angry with him. But what really, and that getting angry looks something like, why would you do that? And I can't believe you did that to me, and it's just not fair, and why, you're so uncaring, you're so unkind, all that kind of stuff. And if I had have done that, if I had have responded that way, what do you think his response would have been? Do you think it would have been what I really was needing and wanting, which is deep connection and intimacy? No, it would have been defense. It would have been for him to get angry back. But what I want everyone to understand is that the reason that we would do that, and the reason that I've done that in the past, and the reason that I see people doing that, is it's a micromanagement. We're trying to manage the situation within ourselves and within our partner so as to avoid sadness, because we think unconsciously, we believe sadness to be the thing in life that we need to avoid. Now, in that situation, if I instead did what I did do, which was to let myself feel the feeling that really occurred for me, which was feeling sad. Now, when I feel sad, everybody responds differently. For me, I get a little bit quiet and I feel those feelings inside me. I didn't have to say anything to my husband. I just felt the feelings. And because we're all sensitive to energetics and to subtlety, my husband was aware of that feeling of sadness in me. Now, what was his response? Eventually, he couldn't help but see his own behavior and what happened, and he apologized. He said sorry, and he meant it. That's not what's important. Getting him to say sorry isn't why we do this. But what really happened in that moment is we got to experience each other's deep, sensitive, vulnerable internal self, which cultivates intimacy. So from that one experience, he and I have been able to have a tenderness, a moment of heartfelt connection. And this is something that when it occurs, you know, on an ongoing basis, it builds upon intimacy. That's vulnerability. You know, we talk about vulnerability so much like we need to have it, but nobody knows how to do it. This is one of the ways that we can healthily, and one of the ways that we've been given to cultivate and build on intimacy from vulnerability. So I'd love for you all to just consider that next time. And yes, when you feel like you might notice there's a moment that occurs in your relationship or a potential relationship where you could be sad, notice your tendency to want to avoid that and recognize the trigger or where that comes from. You're protecting yourself, and not only yourself, you're protecting yourself from potentially having to walk away from the relationship. Because if you let yourself be sad and that person doesn't step up and be gentle and loving, then you've got no other option but to say, okay, well, they're not being good to me, and then what does that mean? So there's many reasons we avoid sadness in relationship at all, but I hope that this has helped us, a lot of you, to understand that sadness is not only our psyche's, one of our psyche's really powerful tools to create homeostasis and come back into balance from the external and environmental factors that throw us off equilibrium, but sadness is one of nature's beautiful tools to help us to create vulnerability and intimacy in a relationship. So the next time you find yourself in a relationship and wanting to react with anger or overwhelm or one of the other emotions that are maybe not so helpful, just stop and see if you can dig underneath that and see if there's sadness. There often is. And if there's sadness, let yourself feel it. Remember, feeling sadness, you don't have to even express it or say it, but feeling sadness gives the other person an opportunity to see and then touch and nurture that inner, tender, vulnerable part of yourself. I hope that you have received something from this, and if you have, or you have any questions, just comment below, and I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Lots of love.